You're listening to RACMAN Christian Radio. RACMAN Christian Radio.
Can you hear me now?
Come on and tune in, RACMAN Christian Radio.
Welcome to another Summer Artist Spotlight right here on RACMAN Christian Radio, also rehosted on the C-Pop and WJIC Christian Networks on Saturdays. My special guest, and they're always special, but just talking to him for a few minutes, I think we're going to have a good time. Anthony LaBruno is now on the air with the RACMAN.
Thank you so much, Jesse, for having me. I'm so excited for doing this.
Oh, you're welcome. Now, you told me off the air you've done one of those written interviews for articles. I have a friend that actually worked for a little bit with Live It Loud magazine, and that's exactly how they did their interviews. And I thought, oh, no, I could never do one of those like a radio interview. You and I would be going, okay, question number 1, where were you born?
Exactly.
Question number 2.
It'd probably be a little bit dry, yeah.
It would be very dry. And I've got friends that are in the music industry that do interviews for like Christian Music Magazine and stuff like that. And they are conversational, but he's got a script right in front of him. I'm like, oh, I can't do that. But anyway, it is so great to have you on. We started out receiving 3 songs from A-Sides. And just recently, you sent out a 4th song, and I do promise we will play that during our interview, and I would definitely want to get the story behind any of the songs we played tonight.
Sure. Yeah, the 3 that we sent was off my full-length album, Into the Deep. I think Taste and See we started off with. Then a few months later, I believe Jeff sent over At Your Feet, which we also did a music video to as well, which is up on my YouTube page. And then Garment of Praise came out recently. And then shortly after that, we just released another single called Still God, which, I am excited to talk about that whenever we get to that.
Well, and what I love about this, and I just thank you for trusting our ministry to have this song before it's actually released. I love doing that because I love talking to the person who just released it, because that's the first thing that's on your mind, really. That's the last thing that entered your mind and exited your lips and went into production. So we'll definitely do that. But before we get into any music, of course, I always have to ask, who is Anthony LaBruno? What does he do for fun? What is his life about? Anything you want to share, but just, it's one of those, I gotta ask.
Yeah, sure. What I do for work, I can start with that, is I'm actually a band director in the town I grew up in. It was crazy how God worked that out. I'm thankful to be working there. I teach music to middle school and high school. I'm the band director. I do marching band, concert band, jazz band. I also teach general music classes as well. So that's my 9 to 5, if you will. And then of course there's music ministry, which takes up a ton of my life, and I'm thankful for it. I thank God for it. So I'm the worship leader at my church, Abundant Life Worship Center of Springfield in Springfield, New Jersey. And so I have a small worship team, small church, but thank God for it, because our ministry has been one that has been such a discipleship ministry, such a hands-on ministry, such an outreach ministry, and so it's just been awesome. I've been saved. Actually, this year marks 10 years. I got saved after I'll give away my age. I'm 29.
Oh no! All right, it's out. It's out of the bag.
I got saved when I was 19 years old after my freshman year of college, and it was in the midst of doing a camp for my pastor, doing like for the youth group, running like a music camp. And so he had called me up because my mom was going to the church, my sisters were going to the church, and so he called me up, like, I don't want to call like some random person in here to do this music camp, but I have a bunch of kids interested in learning how to play instruments and so on and so forth. So he said, I know you're majoring in music, and so it'd be really cool if you could come in and do this. And so I was at a point in my life where I had rejected God for a long time prior, and been pretty combative at that, especially with my mom, and who's probably listening right now, saying, sorry, Mom.
We love you, Mom. We really do. We love you.
Yeah. But her and my sisters at the time, and it was something, but, I guess it was those last minutes before God kind of really reached down and just rescued me right out of the pit. I was I had some crazy circumstances lead up to it, and so when he called me, it wasn't very. I guess at that point it was surprising, but now in hindsight, it's not very surprising at all. I see how God orchestrated it, and so it was perfect timing for me. I was questioning things in my life, and then I said, you know what, this is really this could be a really good opportunity, resume-wise, and for me as a musician, and so on and so forth. And so, I go in, and I just remember being floored by the youth group at our church, and the kids that were interested in doing it. I had to kind of pick them up from some pretty rough areas in a city nearby our church. So I was like, here I am driving this church van. I'm a suburban kid from a great family, silver spoon, if you will, compared to what they were dealing with,
right,
and what their upbringing was, and what the neighborhood that they're in, if you could call it that. And so I go in, and they were so excited. And after the first class that we did, or the first day of the camp, I'm like, you know what? I don't even think these kids are going to show up. Probably after I had this pessimistic attitude, and I'm like, they're not going to be whatever. I had all the stereotypes of what kids from that area or that kind of area would be like. And then, I was shown the exact opposite. And the only way I could rationalize it in my mind was there's something in these kids they have that I don't, and I need. I need very badly. Why am I a kid who was brought up in an excellent home, great parents, great family? Why am I miserable? Why am I dealing with depression? Why do I have no peace? Why do I, quite frankly, contemplate suicide on a regular basis? Why am I miserable? And these kids have nothing, and yet they are so happy and have this light inside of them that I don't really, I can't rationalize in my own head. And so I said, you know what? I'm teaching this camp. I should probably go to a service and hear this pastor preach. Even though I've been there before, I went with my family and stuff like that for various holidays or things, whether it be Easter or Christmas or whatever. But it was different. This time I went with my ears open, like Jesus said, let he who has an ear to hear, let him hear, And so I had an ear to hear, and the gospel came alive to me in a new way, in a different way. And I just, it did not take very long. Within a matter of a couple of weeks, I was sold out for Jesus and got baptized about a month later, or maybe 2 months later. And that's it. From that point on, I never stopped serving the Lord. And within a year, I was leading worship and playing on the worship team, and just great things from that point on. And I'm still living it now, and I thank God for it.
And that's the short story of growing up with Anthony LeBruno. I can, I don't know how many other people listening can identify with this. If your family's listening, well, then of course they can. But yeah, growing up at that point where your middle finger is pointed toward God and you're just yelling at him going, I am done with you. Of course, at 15, you're so wise. You know exactly what's going on, right? You've got all the answers. Yeah. And
Mom has no clue what she's talking about.
Oh, it's funny how, that saying, parents are smarter about the time you hit a certain age, and it's different for all of us. Yeah, yes, right. It is.
Right.
But, to have the hook. I had the teaching myself. I grew up my mom threw me in church, stuck me on a bus and said goodbye. Church was all I knew, but it wasn't until I had that heart-rendering recognition that I needed something more, that standing in an airman's club at Biloxi, Mississippi, sipping wine coolers and smoking cigarettes was not the answer. Right. And that's where it started to turn around. And I can't imagine that it was an easy road that you went through, but, if we're going to talk about that, we at least have to get a song in. And since you did give me the order of the songs, let's start with Taste and See.
Sure.
Tell me something about that song that would connect this song with listeners.
Taste and See is one of the, 3 out of the 4 that we'll play tonight that my wife and I wrote together. Taste and See and At Your Feet, we were actually not married yet. We were just kind of in that courting stage, or maybe, I don't know, maybe At Your Feet we might have been engaged at that point. But what happens a lot of times with my wife and I, we're a pretty good team in different ways, and we could see how God did it for that kind of reason. I'll give you one example. As my wife is an excellent evangelist. You know what I mean? She's great at just like meeting people and just like showing them the love of Christ, and they just want to come to church and they just want to love God just by meeting her and seeing her smile or whatever. You know, within 5 minutes of meeting Rosie, it's over. You know, but then me, you know, I'm a little bit different. I'm a little deeper, you know, of a guy. I'm naturally more introverted or introspective or whatever, you know, whatever you want to call it. Which is funny because I'm a worship leader and and a teacher. But anyway, so she'll, you know, a lot of times she'll hook them and I'll cook them. You know what I mean? Like the deeper questions that they'll have, I might be able to answer, and I'll be able to help to disciple somebody or mentor somebody, you know, along a longer road. So the same thing happens a lot of times with songs. So she kind of was, she was just sitting in a practice room on the college campus that I was going to at the time, and she was like waiting for me to get out of the class, and she just kind of came up with this little melody, this idea. I think it was just the first verse of this, what wound up being the first verse of the song. And then, you know, again, she hooked it, and then I come in and I cook it, and so I added my 2 cents or whatever, way more than 2 cents, I guess. and we together we kind of worked this whole thing out, and it wound up being Taste and See.
Well, Taste and See is what we're going to share with our listening audience. If you've heard this song before, definitely tweet it back out. Share it on Facebook. Taste and See by Anthony LaBruno on our Summer Artist Spotlight. We'll be right back.
Here we are to give you praise and shout for all your glory. We dance like David in your presence, shouting you are good. Oh, taste and see that the Lord is good. Oh, taste and see that the Lord is good. That the Lord is good. Here we are, a sacrifice. We give our lives as offerings. We sing with all we have inside, declaring you are good. Oh, taste and see that the Lord is good. Oh, taste and see that the Lord is good. That the Lord is good. Oh, magnify the Lord with me. Exalt his name together. Oh, magnify the Lord with me. Exalt his name forever. Here you are, Lord, in our midst, inhabiting our praises, speaking words of truth and life. Jesus, you are good. Oh, taste and see that the Lord is good. Oh, taste and see that the Lord is good. That the Lord is good. Oh, magnify the Lord with me.
sure.
Oh, taste and see. Don't be reserved about your relationship with Christ and getting on board. Oh my gosh. For the Lord is good. Do, do, do. Yeah, love it. Yeah, that'll get you fired up, and if it doesn't, you need to check your pulse. So, well, the question that comes to mind is, here you are, you're working a 9 to 5 in a school, teaching kids how to, the theory of music. You're a worship pastor. Where do you find the time to produce music, lead worship, work a full-time job, and God forbid you even have kids?
Not yet.
Not yet. Well, okay. Well, then you just answered my question. No, just kidding.
No. Though I have thought, like, how am I going to do that with kids? But no, we are moving in that direction. But it's you know what? I look at it this way. I always feel like God wants to stretch us. And the question is, like, are we willing? So the more you let him, like, the more he will. And sometimes, I almost wish, like, I shouldn't have let him stretch me last time, because then, I could have reserved that amount of stretching for the next time or whatever. But, it's really, he doesn't give you more than you can bear, and he's always there. Anything that he asks me to do, he also equips me to do. And so I thank God for that. I couldn't do, obviously, any of it without him. I tried it without him, and it didn't work.
Well, we'll have to talk. We'll have to talk when you have kids. We'll revisit this question. I'll call you on the spot. Hey, doing an update with Angelo Bruno. He just had triplets, and Anthony, back then I asked you a question: how do you balance it? And you said, balance what?
Yeah. And I'll say, have you noticed that I have not come out with a song in a few years now?
Well, I can't imagine why.
Now all my songs are geared towards children's ministry for some reason. I don't know.
You know what? I've heard that time and time again. Even the shows that I do when I'm not doing interviews can be focused on something the Lord has taught me, and I'm sharing a devotion, or I'm sharing a thought or a sermon with music.
Yeah.
And yet that's not all me. That just happens to be my focus. Well, I think we're really wired that way if you think about it. You're a singer-songwriter. You're involved in music. God gives you the gift to, with your wife, of course, can't forget your wife, to put into music and song something that will reach people's hearts. And it's going to be wrapped around your life.
Yeah.
Think about it.
Yeah, and you know what? I mean, it's interesting that you say that, because I was actually just kind of reflecting a little bit earlier today, before I knew I was going to speak with you, and I said to myself, a lot of the songs on Into the Deep, there's 10 songs on that album. I entered into that whole experience with, like, oh my gosh, I mean, maybe 30 or more songs, and I whittled it down with my worship team and other leaders that I trust, and so on and so forth. I had them, like, kind of make a list of, like, the top, like, 13. So, like, let's say I had one of those, like, longer albums, like, that are like 13 songs long or something like that. Like, what would be the top out of the ones that you guys know I've written and that we've done with our congregation, and so on and so forth. And so we kind of came down with this, like, I had this list that I submitted, like, that were like 13 songs to Sean Hill, my producer, and we whittled it down, and we wound up only using, I think, 7 of those, and then I had written 3 more in the interim, one of them with him, which was the title track, Into the Deep. And that song, Into the Deep, I really think was the first song that I wrote that wasn't just about a story from the Bible, or about worship, or about praise, or about getting a congregation to sing with me, and about leading worship, if that all makes sense, kind of like such God-centered, which is, of course, a good thing, but having almost nothing to do with me, almost like this external thing where, like, I just took something separate, which sounds kind of like counterintuitive when you think about most artists. You think, like, oh, well, they get their inspiration from their life or whatever. But again, I had done this before I got saved. I was in, like, whatever. I was in, like, a punk band in high school and stuff like that. I had been songwriting for a long time, and it was always about me. And I think when I got saved, like, there was this drastic change, and I thought I had to. We talked about this a little bit while Tasty was playing. Where I thought it had to be so, like, God focused that, like, it took all of the me out of it. You know what I mean? And then it became kind of sterile. And not to say that the songs on Into the Deep are sterile, but Into the Deep, the title track, and Still God, which is the single that just came out that we'll play later. and anything I've written since then has really been something that, like you said, it's wrapped up in what God is doing in my life and how I can convey that to others to be able to jump on board with that they might be going through something similar, or that maybe God is calling them to a place that is similar. Like Into the Deep was about me going out into the deep and having all my songs be listened to by way more people than I would have ever imagined. I was comfortable in my little small church leading worship with these songs, and having those people love the songs because they love me, because we're family. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
And so that was easy. But going out into the deep and saying, okay, well, now I'm going to make this stuff available to whosoever will, and they can judge me and they can, whatever. It hit at all those insecurities in me and so on and so forth. So that song is written, about that very thing. But yet, if you listen to the song, you wouldn't necessarily say, oh, this song is all about Anthony. You know what I'm saying? So being able to tie in my life and what God is doing in me, and being able to gain inspiration from the things that are going on around me, and then use it for God's glory, is kind of where I'm at now over the last 2 years or so, I would say, because Into the Deep came out in 2015. We had written that title track. I mean, we were already tracking the album, and we still didn't write the title track yet. So we were writing it while other songs were being tracked. So it was interesting. It was a last minute, we didn't even know if it was going to be good. We were like, oh my gosh, here we go, step in front of the mic, let's do it. It hadn't been road tested yet, but yeah, a lot of the songs that I've been writing recently have been I can't think of one that has been sterile, so to speak.
Well, in it, you have the gift then of word pictures and imagery, so that when people listen to certain songs, they might get a different meaning without realizing that it was actually you that was in it to begin with.
Exactly. Which is a good thing, because I don't want people looking at me, you know what I mean? I'm just the vessel, not the subject of the thing.
Well, you're the subject today. What are you talking about?
Oh, yeah.
It's Anthony LeBruno on the spot. This is all about, this is not all about Anthony. This is connecting Anthony with you, our listeners of RACMAN Christian Radio, and finding out what he is all about and where his inspiration comes, so that, you can enjoy the music as well as go out and get your own copies. Now, speaking of one of those songs from Into the Deep that we have, was that next single that came out. It's called At Your Feet. Just a little snippet about this song and why it's so important.
This one was definitely one of those where we took it out of a story in the Bible where the woman broke the alabaster box and poured it at the feet of Jesus, and it was something that my wife had this. I guess she felt like she could identify with this woman and the possible past that she might have had. So we kind of started to think about what would this woman possibly have been involved with as far as sin, as far as her walk, and as far as what had gone on, what had happened maybe to her, and all those kinds of things. And so we started to try and delve into that and try and tell this story of this woman, this hypothetical woman. Some would say it was Mary Magdalene or whatever. I mean, there's different kind of theories on who this woman was. But if you look in the book of Luke, it doesn't really name the person. You know what I mean? There's another account of something similar where the person's name is Mary. But so we took it from a hypothetical point of view and said okay, well, a woman who would do this, because Jesus said she has been forgiven for much, therefore she's grateful for much, or she loves much, and he said this story will be told, many, many years from now, and this woman will always be remembered for what she did, and she did it out of love and understanding how many things she was forgiven for. That's kind of the idea. And so we started to say, well, what in the world was this woman wrapped up in, and what was this woman healed from that she was so grateful to the Lord that she would pour out something so expensive, something so, so full of worth, And so that's where it comes in, where the first verse, mistreated and abused, because you think about, there's that saying that says hurt people, you know what I mean? And so we said, well, she must have been a hurt person. If she was forgiven from us, she must have had some things go on in her life that were no good, for her to be such a sinner that needed such forgiveness, as we all do, tired of being used for others' selfish gain. So, we figured this woman, to be somebody who might have been used and, again, abused, and broken, forsaken, abandoned, and forgotten. Take away this pain. So then she goes in, she falls at his feet, and so on. And then in verse 2, what I really felt to do was to kind of throw in the opposite side of that, so that she has met Jesus, and now instead of mistreated and abused, now she's experiencing the love of Christ. And so it says, I know this love is true, carried away by you in the safety of your arms, so on and so forth. So instead of saying like broken and forsaken, now it says rescued and protected. Abandoned and forgotten, instead of abandoned and forgotten, it's chosen and forgiven, you know. So there's that play between the verses of where she had been, then when she meets Christ, and now where she is now as a result. So then the bridge the bridge is probably the only part of the song where you would know, like, oh, this is about that story in the Bible, if you really think about it, because it says pouring out oil, offering my heart's devotion. So everything I have broken to give you all of my love. But, you know, like you said before, like, it's kind of a song that you wouldn't necessarily know it's about this story or whatever. But so I tried to say it without saying it, if you will. So that it's not just like, oh, this is a story about this, or this is a song about this exact story from the Bible. Like, no, there's a lot of people that can relate to this. You know?
Absolutely.
So I was trying to make it.
Well, that story doesn't even have to be on a gender side of things, because all of us have faced things, and you know, even the story of the woman who was caught in the sin and was about to be stoned by her fellow brothers and sisters. Yeah. And Jesus said, those of you that have no sin, throw the first stone.
Right.
I can't find anything where Jesus condemned anything that anyone did. Now, he didn't approve of it, but he showed such grace and such love to forgive and give them a way to escape from that.
Exactly. Yeah, and it's funny you said that, even like about the gender. I mean, we even thought about, like, well, who should sing this? It's about, you know, we're like, in theory, we're talking about this woman, you know what I mean? But yet, like, I'm like, I don't know. Like, so we wound up saying, like, you know, I guess I'll still sing it. And then, you know, it's funny because someone else had said it to me the other day, like, oh, you know, the only song I could think of that, like, I guess you should have, like, a woman sing. And I was like, you know what? I don't know. You know, so it's funny that you said that. I felt like, you know, it didn't necessarily need to have that a female singing it, just so that it identifies more with that story or whatever. So yeah, like you said, it is what it is. It's a story of all of us. You know, we were all once lost and now found. You know, we were all blind but now see. So.
We're speaking with Anthony LaBruno off currently his singles and a selected set of singles off of his project called Into the Deep, and this song is called At Your Feet. On RACMAN Christian Radio's Artist Spotlight, we'll be back. Don't go away.
Love is true.
You're listening to RACMAN Christian Radio. RACMAN Christian Radio.
Can you hear me now?
Come on and tune in, RACMAN Christian Radio.
Perfectly timed. Hey, we're talking off the air with Anthony LeBruno. We are live with the RACMAN and our friend Anthony, all the way on the East Coast. I'm East. He's East. I'm West. I'm the best. Mm-hmm. He agreed. Got him. Okay, good. We're on the right path here. But I just find it interesting. We were talking about that topic off the air, and the song "At Your Feet" was playing, because that is really where the heart of the matter is. To anyone listening right now who is going through something like, if you were listening earlier and you heard what I'm going through with a renal scan, you know what? The Lord is the one who is not the author of confusion. He's the one with the answer to the confusion. He's the one who has the answer to your problem. And I'm speaking for myself as well as anyone else who's listening that's going through something either physically or spiritually that they just can't seem to break free from, or is literally, as I told Anthony 4 hours ago, I was about ready to call and cancel because I just want to hide under a pillow. And there are people hiding under pillows right now.
Yeah, you know what? It's interesting. Even that garment of praise is up next, too. I think about that. If you think about, if you think about what it says in Isaiah chapter 61, where it talks about, to appoint unto all them that mourn in Zion, to give them beauty for ashes, oil of joy for mourning, garment of praise for the spirit of heaviness, and so if there's any, like you said, if there's anyone under that pillow, anyone who doesn't want to come out, from underneath the covers, that spirit of heaviness on you, you know what I mean? The garment of praise is offered as an alternative, and so God is, the spirit of the Lord is upon me, Jesus said, you know what I mean? And Luke, quoting Isaiah 61, and he, so in other words, he is the source of all those things. He's the source of giving beauty for ashes and oil of joy for mourning, and so he's always, like we said before.
Now you've got Crystal Lewis. You got Crystal Lewis playing in my head, and you've got an old hymn playing in my head. Thanks for that, by the way.
No problem.
They're playing at the same time. It's very confusing.
Are they in the same key?
Yes, as a matter of fact, they are.
Okay.
And my brain is trying to get them. Yeah, I'm trying to get it. As I'm talking to you and I'm listening to you, my brain's like, okay, that's the right key. Now, can we get them both in the same tempo? And there's no way you can get beauty of ashes and put on the garment of praise for the spirit of heaviness. Lift up your voice and sing to go together. It's just not going to happen.
I tried.
Oh my gosh. Well, we're not ready to wind down, but this is where I get to put you on the spot. And from what I can tell, you have a lot to say, and you have a topic you can choose, but there is one condition. Oh, this will be a hard one, too. If you share anything, can you please share it in a way that will give people hope, that will give them something to look forward to? There's a lot of hurting people that listen to this station, and they're not just here in the United States. We have a lot of international listeners that reach out to us. And I got to be honest, I don't know how to reach them except to pray for them. And somehow this ministry is reaching them. But that's really the purpose of the question, and give you the open forum. Something in your heart, maybe it's something about current events, maybe last days, maybe just something that you're going on in your own life that you could share to encourage and give hope to people that will be listening both live right now during the replays and even on the podcast.
And I'm really on the spot, huh? No.
You really are on the spot. This is live.
Yeah. Oh, it is? I thought, no, I'm just kidding.
Oh, you're funny.
No, as I think, we are in such an interesting time. I guess I'll use that word. Things that were once considered right are considered wrong, and things that were considered wrong are considered right. And, we were calling good evil and evil good. And it can be so discouraging, and even I get discouraged sometimes as I look out, whether it's the political climate or whatever, or just the society as a whole. And especially in this country, even though I know there's others in other countries listening, but like the Bible says the world is waxing worse or growing worse, so it is a global thing, where morality is just declining. And it can be very discouraging, you know what I mean? And it could be something that, you know, you say to yourself, man, like, how much further can this go? You know, how much, you know, and you think about those who are persecuted and so on and so forth. But I thank God that, you know, he's there, like we said earlier, to just, if he calls you to something, he equips you to it. So the same is true regarding anything that we go through or anything that we are surrounded by. You know what I mean? Jesus was in the boat during the storm that was surrounding him. So if you want to call what's going on out in the world right now a storm, you know, he was sleeping in the boat. I mean, you had disciples there, and like you said, I'm giving hope here. You know what I mean? I'm not just spinning this dark story and this discouragement. Like there is a storm, you know, a brewing, you know, around us. The waves are, you know, crashing, and the winds are, you know, are violent, and so on and so forth around us, you know, in this climate, in this society, and so on and so forth. Yet the Lord is in the boat, sleeping. To the point that the disciples say, like, oh my gosh, like, what, do you not care about our lives? I mean, we're about to die, you know, like, again, because we can be so discouraged and say, like, this is it for Christianity in America. This is it for, you know, morality in the world, and so on and so forth. You know, don't you care, God? Don't you care? You know, but he's at peace in the midst of it. You know, because at the end of the day, what does he get up and do? What does he wake up and do? He says, peace, be still, and there it is. You know what I mean? It just takes that. It just takes a word from him to give peace and to cause everything around you to no longer affect you, and to be, man, you can just be in the midst of it and have the peace that he had. And didn't he say in that portion, he said something about, I was saying, like, why are you so fearful, or why are you're faithless, you know, you're so faithless, or so on and so forth. You know, he said that to them on many occasions, but that was one of them. You know, in other words, like, he's expecting us to have that same peace. Like, in other words, you should have been sleeping too, or at least relaxed, because I'm not going to let, like, this thing get to you. You know what I'm saying? Though 1,000 may fall, you know, 10,000 at the right hand, you know, it shall not come near you. You know what I mean? I'm gonna be the peace in the storm. I'm gonna be what's inside of you that is going to make those external things not affect you internally, because I live in you. You know, and so, I mean, that applies to everything. You know, it really does. And I was even thinking about it today. I was doing some studying on. I was looking at the 7 things that scientists say describe any living thing. You know, and one of them was reacting to, like, their environment. You know, so in other words, it was saying, like, oh, if you tap a rock or something, it's not going to move. But, like, if you tap, like, a turtle shell, that turtle's going to either snap at you or start moving because it's being affected externally. It's going to do something in response to that. But at the same time, a living thing, and again, if living, I'm saying if we have a living relationship with Christ, it also maintains homeostasis, which means that the internal, like, our part of our homeostasis as humans is that our body temperature is 98.6, right? So it can be 85 degrees outside, or it can be, 15 degrees outside, and still we are 98.6 inside. We can have peace inside, even though. So there are things that can affect us, like as knee-jerk reactions, because that's part of our humanity. But there are things that no matter what's going on outside, inside of us, with the Lord living inside of us, it doesn't affect our homeostasis, if you will. It doesn't affect our body temperature. It doesn't affect the temperature of where we're at. In life, we can see these things go on and still have joy. We can see these things go on and still have praise in our hearts. No matter what goes on, we can continue to bless the Lord. And to bring it back to garment of praise again, though there might be heaviness, there's a garment of praise available for us. Though there might be mourning, there's oil of joy. We can have joy. We can have it, because joy is different than happiness. Happiness is temporary. Happiness is conditional. But joy carries through all different kinds of seasons, and peace does the same. And so he is the Prince of Peace, and I thank God for that.
Amen. And we can add to the title of Anthony LeBruno, now preacher. You're listening to RACMAN Christian Radio's Artist Spotlight. We have at least one more song to play on top of Garment of Praise, so don't go away. You're going to want to hear this brand new single from Anthony LeBruno. But first, Garment of Praise, and we'll be back.
Give me the oil of joy. Give me praise for my heaviness, joy for my mourning. take refuge in the shadow of your wings. In the safety of your arms I will abide. With all my soul I'm trusting in your faithfulness to deliver me. Your grace set me free. Give me the garment of praise. Give me the oil of joy. Give me praise for my heaviness, joy for my mourning. I come boldly to your throne in times of need, finding grace to help my troubled heart move on. Jesus, you alone have died for me to overcome, to have victory. Your grace set me free. Give me the garment of praise. Give me the oil of joy. Give me praise for my heaviness, joy for my mourning. Give me the garment of praise. Give me the oil of joy. Give me praise for my heaviness, joy for my mourning. You comfort all the mourning Zion, binding up the broken hearts. Open up the prisons and you set the captives free. You comfort all the mourning Zion, binding up the broken hearts. Open up the prisons and you set the captives free. You comfort all the mourning Zion, binding up the broken hearts. Open up the prisons and you set the captives free. You set the captives free. You set the captives free. Give me the garment of praise. Give me the oil of joy. Give me praise for my heaviness, joy for my mourning. Give me the garment of praise. Give me the oil of joy. Praise, oh, praise for my heaviness, joy for my mourning.
You're listening to RACMAN Christian Radio. We're talking about marriage now and doing it the right way. That's what you don't get to hear. Maybe I should create a special podcast that has all these behind the scenes conversations. That would be interesting. That would be interesting. All right, Anthony, we're up to that waited a moment. That song, that one awaited moment. Thank you. I'll get this out. I promise.
There we go. You got it.
And I have heard this only once, so I'm really looking forward to hearing it again, because I watched the video that you had produced for it, so maybe we'll make that 2. You sent it to me, I listened to it briefly there, and I wanted to make sure we got it in as our final song for this Artist Spotlight. Wow. I got, before we even play the song or tell a story about it, you got to let people know how they can friend you, follow you, stalk you, however it is, whatever it is you do that makes that connection. I know you're on Twitter, Facebook, your website, all those things. Get that in one spiel so that people can connect with you right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Most of them are pretty easy. So my website is my name, AnthonyLabruno.com. So it'll have like event information, the updates on new music coming out. I have chord sheets on there for anybody who wants to learn the songs. And then links to my YouTube page and all that stuff. So links are available there as well, to directly to Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. My Instagram and Twitter, and I think YouTube as well, it's all Anthony_Labruno.
Yeah,
so again,
I broke
name,
down.
So that's easy.
I broke down. Jesse the Rackman is now on Instagram. Woohoo!
Snapchat is the one that I'm still boycotting.
No, forget
Snapchat
that.
No. All my students in school are on Snapchat. I'm like, I don't know. This whole it goes away in 24 hours thing. I don't know how much that'll benefit me, but anyway. So I want to have stuff up there that people can look at if they want to see it, not have it be only whatever. But anyway, so Instagram Anthony_Labruno, Twitter same, and YouTube the same. On Facebook, I guess you could search Anthony LeBruno Music as my page. Also, the direct link will be facebook.com/LeBruno Launch Out, all one word, LeBruno Launch Out. That was from that the scripture that was the Into the Deep scripture that God spoke to me for coming out with that album, was launch out into the deep and let out your net. So when they asked for what to do, I tried to put Anthony _LeBruno, but Facebook doesn't let you use the underscore. So I was like, okay, I got to come up with something creative here. So I put LeBruno Launch Out.
Official so Anthony LeBruno,
Yeah, right.
The Anthony LeBruno,
the real Anthony.
Oh my gosh. So yes, so AnthonyLeBruno.com, _ between the two names, Anthony LeBruno on Twitter, Instagram. You're also found on Facebook, all over the place. It's been a one-of-a-kind opportunity to speak to you. I love it when I can partner with someone who can talk as much as I can. That way I don't have to. So, and I mean that honestly. That's not a put down. That is just, it's awesome because I just set you off running and you just went and you followed the rabbit trail for me. It was perfect. Thank you, sir.
No problem. Anytime.
Oh, well, we're down to this.
I'm sure my wife is upstairs cracking up right now, I'm sure.
Yeah, well, we're here to entertain, aren't we? That's not the only reason, but yeah, we're here. Okay, let's get to this song, and this is the one freshest in your mind. You don't have to go back 2 years to try to tell a story. Still God might seem obvious to most people. He's still God. Be still God. Still with God. Whatever play you want to put on the words, but for you, it had a special meaning, and how that would connect to our audience tonight.
Yeah, you know what? It's kind of similar to what we were talking about earlier. With I can think of it in this way, that you can still be in a storm. Like, so there's this dual meaning, obviously, and you'll hear once we get to the bridge of the song, everybody will hear it more clearly, obviously. But there's a dual meaning of still as in unmoving, and still as in continually. Right? So we have he's still God, he's continually God. He's God today, and he was forever and forever will be. So he is still God. He is still, and he's always going to be God. And then there's this: I'll be still, like the scripture says, be still and know that he's God. So I will be unmoving because I know that he's always going to be there. So I can stay here in the waiting. I can stay here, and still have peace. I can stay here and, like we talked about before, still have joy. I can be still in this, no matter how uncomfortable it is, because he is still God. He never left the throne. He never will. You know what I mean? And so it's a simple concept, but you know what? It was such a supernatural thing for my wife and I to experience. And I'm actually sitting here right now in the promise that we were waiting for. We were looking for a house, and it took us a while. You know what I mean? The market was a little rough, and we lost a bunch of houses. We were put in offers, and I think it was 6 houses we lost before we got, it was something like that, or this one was the 6th or something like that. But, it was just you think God led you, and then you go ahead and, we learned to not expect a certain results just because God said to do something, So he would say, we felt like God was leading us to put an offer in on this house, and we go ahead and do so. And we're and then you're scratching your head when it doesn't work out, and you're like, what? But I thought you told me to. Oh yeah, but he never said you're going to get it.
Stick with me after the show. I'll tell you a story about following a trail, knowing it was God's will, and you reach the end of the trail and you go, "That's it."
Right. Yeah.
Well, you're still God. That's all I know.
Right. Exactly. So you know what? It's funny because we just kept going on this roller coaster, and it was rough. And I almost felt silly. I'm like, man, people are dealing with much worse stuff than this. But for us, it was something that we were so excited about. We were in an apartment for a while, a small little apartment. And we were, I didn't even think I was going to, we weren't even having our sights set on a house anytime soon. But then, God spoke that. So I'm sitting here saying, God, you're the one who told us to, first of all, save for a house, which we didn't even barely have any savings. So within a year, we were able to get enough savings with a little bit of help, of course, and go searching for and close on the house that we're in now. And so at the end of it, in hindsight, you look back and like, oh man, wow, this is awesome. And I understand why we didn't get that house, this house, this house. This one is the best by far. This one is the one that God had for us, and so on and so forth. And we're so comfortable. We love the area, the location, and so on and so forth. But, it was just that roller coaster ride that was pretty rough. And in the chorus, it says, "You are God after all. After all, you are good." So no matter what, after all this stuff that's, pulling us up and down and whatever. And then it says, "El Shaddai, you are all that I need." And that idea of El Shaddai was crucial in this point. It was something I was studying. I was reading a book called Names of God, which is an excellent book by Nathan Stone. It goes over, I think, 12 names of God. Elohim, Jehovah, El Shaddai. El Shaddai is the third one. And so I actually was perfectly timed. I was just going through the chapters of the book in the order that they're written, and I just happened to land on El Shaddai at this crucial moment where I was really starting to doubt, like, if we were ever going to even get a house. You know what I mean? Maybe we just have to wait a few years, because we were worried that, like, our realtor kept saying, like, the interest rates are so great right now, whatever, you really got to buy by X and X a date. So she was like, and it wound up working out, thank God, but it was like at the 11th hour, as God always does, it seems. But, we closed on our house like 2 days before the year ended, and she felt like we needed to get in by the end of 2016. So we closed on December 29th. It was crazy. But I was at this point, I think it was last summer, and I was reading about El Shaddai and how the time that it first comes up in Scripture is about the promise to Abraham to have a son, and to Abraham and Sarah, and how, like, God gives that promise, but then, like, the whole thing of, like, El Shaddai is, it doesn't mean the promise is immediately received. It's that, like, he takes you through, like, the ringer, you know what I mean, and brings you to the place where it has to be him, and it couldn't have been you. So needless to say, Abraham's 99, Sarah's 90. El Shaddai is, God Almighty, the exact, English translation. But it also ties into, being a keeper of his promise and being someone who is almighty or powerful enough to bring that promise to pass. And so I really wrote the song by faith, saying, again, it was another song that my wife had kind of started off with verse 1, and, and then I was able to really take it from there. But that chorus, that El Shaddai part, I mean, really, even though the bridge is the title of the song and it's that cool dual meaning of the word still, the whole song is just, to me, hinged on the concept of knowing God as El Shaddai, God Almighty, God who is able to keep his promises, God who is able to bring it to pass and bring you all the way to the brink of, like, when you're ready to quit and you're ready to just say, forget it, that's when he shows up, because that's when you know it was him. Because if you were able to, you were still strong, then you can rationalize it some other way. But, oh man, without getting into, talk about, we could talk after the show, the craziness leading into the closing of our house was just adequate. We even to the day of closing, we didn't think we were closing. It was nuts. And so, like, I got a call from my realtor like a couple hours before we were closing saying, "Oh, you better run to the bank and wire the money for the down." I was like, "What? I thought you said we weren't closing today." So again, God's showing up in a way that I thank God for it, because we know this house is of him. You know what I'm saying? Because he brought it to pass in a miraculous way. So I don't ever have to guess. So that's El Shaddai. That's being still and knowing that he's still God, because he shows himself to be God even through all these different circumstances in our lives, which is awesome. So you're still God.
You're still God. And our guest, joyfully, has been Anthony LeBruno. Anthony, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you just being you and sharing your vision and your ministry. And it's my prayer the Lord will continue to lead you and guide you, give you success in all ventures that he sees fit for you to do. And music just definitely seems to be one of those things.
Amen. Thank you. I appreciate it so much. And likewise to you. I really pray that your ministry touches all those who are in need of it. And I thank God that he's going to continue to anoint you to do so.
Well, we're ending the Artist Spotlight with Anthony's Still God, brand new single, not yet released. Where can you get that? Well, you'll have to follow him on Facebook and on his webpage to find out more. Thank you for listening to RACMAN Christian Radio's Artist Spotlight. Anthony, don't go away. There's more for us to talk about, but first, here's Still God.
As I wait on you, Lord, your peace surrounds my heart. trust you more. I will simply wait. I will simply be at peace as I hope in you, Lord. A rest invades my soul I've never known. I will simply hope. I will simply be at rest. You are God after all, after all. You are good, El Shaddai. You are all that I need. As I stay with you, Lord, a quiet stills my thoughts. To hear your voice, I will simply stay. I will simply be at ease. You are God after all, after all. You are good, El Shaddai. You are all that I need. You are God after all, after all. You are good, El Shaddai. You are all that I I'll be still, God, 'cause you're still God. I'll be still, God, 'cause you're still God.